All right, good day. We're glad you're back for a mini message with us and continue Genesis 37 as we have been for the past couple of days. Just want to look at 3 verses today, verses 9 through 11. Remember, Joseph had a dream. We talked about that dream in the previous video. He shared it with his brothers. It infuriates them because it elevates Joseph and minimizes them. They already can't stand him. They already hate him. And so he gives them another reason to hate him with this dream. Well, poor guy didn't take a hint, and he shares another dream. Look at verse 9. Then he had another dream, and he told it to his brothers. Listen, he said, I had another dream, and this time the sun and moon and 11 stars were bowing down to me. When he told his father as well as his brothers, his father rebuked him and said, What is this dream you had? Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow down to the ground before you? His brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter in mind. So he wasn't wise in sharing the first dream. Whether it was because he was being prideful or he was just being naive, we don't know. But he certainly didn't take the hint, and he does it again. And it is just as bad the second time, if not worse. So I think he's wrong for sharing this second dream. Look, sometimes God shares things with us that aren't necessarily for public consumption, that we don't tell everybody else, that we kind of just keep to ourselves. You know, we think about Mary, you know, in the book of Luke, in chapter 2, Mary ponders the things that she has seen and heard, and she keeps them in her heart, and she thinks about them. But she doesn't broadcast it all to the world. She kind of hangs on to it and sits back. I think that's what Joseph should have done here, because what God was telling him was true. And there's an element of good in this, because Joseph obviously believes. He obviously has faith. He obviously thinks, okay, I can trust God. This is what God's going to do. But he wasn't wise in how he shared it. So it's an example to us to be humble. That humbleness is one of the things that we see out of Christ in large fashion. He is a humble person. He puts others before self. You know, he states clearly the truth of who he is and those kind of things, but he's not doing it in a prideful fashion. Whether he meant to or not, this comes across as prideful. I mean, even Jacob, he even looks at this. He says, well, your mother and I and your brothers actually bow down before you. So even Jacob is really troubled by this. So last thing is the symbolism here. Remember, we talked about yesterday, there was the wheat, that the sheaves of wheat bowed down before Joseph's sheaf of wheat. And that goes to a little bit of prophecy and foreshadowing there in what happened, in that the brothers would bow down because of food and the famine that was taking place. Well, when you go forward in Scripture and you go to the book of Revelation, the nation of Israel in Revelation chapter 12, that the family of Israel is described as the stars, the moon, and the sun. So same kind of thing. So I love to see that we have Genesis happening over here and this symbolism that's happening there running straight through the Bible all the way to Revelation. God's got a plan. And we'll continue Joseph's story tomorrow.